Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can get started. Welcome to everybody at another seating around the fire. I think we've got some visitors from outside the city today. Especially welcome to one of the field supervisors of J. Imon Bassi, welcome you. Thanks for making the time coming from KZN, where it's warmer. But thanks for being here today, I really appreciate it. Also want to say welcome to our guest speaker, Mr. Jack van der Merwe from GMA. Welcome here, Jack. We will have some time later with him. And then what is really important today also is about having Jay here, one of our PhD candidates. And we are particularly pleased that he wants to share with us his research journey. Now, it's interesting, when I had the preliminary discussion with Jay, you know, he was very interested, like often you as PhDs are, how must I do the right thing? What are the things that I have to say? And I hope that today, Jay, that you've freed yourself from all of that, because the idea was really to allow him to share with you where is he in his research journey. Because some of you are obviously almost concluding your journey, some of you are halfway, some of you are not on a PhD journey and just guest attending today. But the idea of this is to give him time to find his voice as a PhD. Because ultimately we want our PhDs to be eloquent at some point, to go out into the world and to speak comfortably about what they have put together. So I hope that you will enjoy this time. I hope that you will make it possible for us to become part of your discussion. The theme or the topic that Jay posted to me was very simple. It just says work-based challenge. So with those few words, I want to say welcome. I will interrupt as I think needed, and everybody can interrupt as they feel needed, and hopefully join the discussion with you. Jay, welcome.
Thank you very much. Must I sit?
Yes, you can sit. Just talk to us. That's fine.
Okay. I just want to thank every one of you for making effort and time to come to this session. For me, I know that I'm going to benefit from the session today, because around me I know I've got a whole lot of people that have got expert knowledge, specialist knowledge, I've got experience that I can actually benefit from. I was born in Durban, the most beautiful city in South Africa. Durban's in KZN. But I come from very humble beginnings. My parents were very poor, and 5 siblings to the family. So, you know, there were many times where we actually had to go with limited food, and we had to dress up with old clothes and stuff like that. But importantly, I had a mother that was very, very godly, and she raised me up in a home where she taught us about God. And you know, as you grow up, obviously you have a mind that will reason and question. So I also begin to question the existence of God, and I ask questions like about myself. You know, who am I? And questions like, who is Jay? What happens if I take off my left hand? Am I still Jay? If I take off my right hand, am I still Jay? And you know, questions like, how does the physiological processes in my body work? Who gave instructions, you know, to my body to function the way it is functioning? Because I all had to find myself, you know. I was taught about God, but I needed to find out. And then, you know, I'm just saying, I just smashed my thumb not long ago. But I see there's a new thumb actually growing, and I never tell my fingernail to grow, you know. But who put the law there for it to grow after the other one was damaged? So these questions I began to ask myself, and then, you know, I realized, you know, for me now, you know, there is somebody that's the greater existence, there is a God. I also asked myself about the universe, you know, and look up into the skies. Where does the skies end? I ask questions about the ocean. You know, who instructed the waters to come to a certain point and then recede? Who gave instruction to the sun to, you know, to shine every morning? And where does a moon hide during the day? You know, all these questions, it reinforced my belief in God. Okay, that is me. You don't have to agree with me, but and that's how I grew up. But the important thing is, I realized that I'm a special being. I'm specially designed, and I'm not an accident. And I look at everything that take place in my life. I realize I'm specially designed. I believe you are all specially designed as well. And that gave me, a realization that I have a purpose in this life. I'm born not just to exist, but there is a purpose, and I realized that everyone around me are also special, specially designed. And so with that embedded in my life, I started my journey through this life. I started my career. I worked in a butcher first, and then I worked in a textile company, and then I found a job as a mechanical fitter at Cecil. I trained, I qualified, I came down to Durban, I studied mechanical engineering. Then I took on another apprenticeship with Mondi Paper. I progressed in that field and I studied. And as I was mentioning to Dr. Marty de Kock, there came a time where I was a senior person in the company. I was getting a 13 check, I even got a 14 check, company car, entertainment allowance, and then there was an opportunity for me to go lecture at the university. And when I got to the university, obviously they couldn't match my benefits that I was getting at Mondi. But because I think, of my realization that I have a purpose in this life and I have something to offer to mankind, I took the job because I have to, I realized I needed to transfer all the skills and the knowledge that I gained at Mondi and at Cecil. So I started lecturing at DUT in the Power Engineering Department. Mr. Bassi was my HOD. And while I was there, 7 learners came to me, and they knew I came from industry, and they explained the problem. They were sitting at home 2 years after they completed the academic component of the study. Is it okay for me to ask Mr. Bassi to explain part of the component of the study now?
That's fine.
Fine. Mr. Bassi, what he'll do, he'll basically give you the structure of the program, the way it's run. But at that point in time in my life, I realized, I have to do something for these youngsters. And that also changed another career. It was another career move for me. Mr. Bassi, maybe you can just explain how that qualification is structured.
Just roughly speaking, maybe it would be of use because I get the feeling there's not too many people directly involved in engineering here. So, roughly speaking, when I was a student in the 70s, it developed from what you could call a sandwich program where very good apprentices would get extra training at college, and in between they'd work and eventually get a diploma. In those days, an employer simply gave a letter. You worked for so many months and this is the type of stuff you did. 80s to 90s, that developed into a logbook. And then 90s to 2000 started to look at competency-based learnings. In other words, students had to reflect on what they were learning. And then the Engineering Council of South Africa also got more involved in that, in our quality checking, what the type of tuition we give students and the teaching. The important part that's a theme through all of this is to get through the diploma. The students do about 2 years of study, which is about 20 subjects over 4 semesters. Now the philosophy of the diploma originally was, as I explained, students would maybe study 6 months, then they would work 6 months, hopefully apply some of the knowledge they've learnt, and they'd come back to us and study. Okay, and that's kind of where the wheels fell off the bus in a number of ways. those of you that are old enough will remember that the economy in South Africa was quite terrible in the 80s, early 90s, the dying days of apartheid, sanctions and all that sort of thing. So students could not get their diploma because they couldn't get the work experience. Because the type of work experience, they're generally employed in a position as a learner technician or so. Okay, so that's the problem which still exists for other reasons. I'll get on to that. So yeah, the number of items. The Labour Relations Act, the reluctance of companies to take on staff, learners who turn out to be not up to the job, and the difficulty, say, of dismissing them. Another thing which is positive, obviously, is now the employment opportunities are open to everybody. But now there's so many more people for the limited number of training opportunities. So one of the things that employers have generally tended to insist on is they say, we won't take a student until he's done all his subjects, because we know we're not going to deal with a student who's failing. And then we'll give him his year's training, two sections of 6 months of experiential learning, and then it's a year's training contract. So if they like him, they can make him permanent. If they don't, at the end of the training, they can say, well, we've given you your training, you finished your contract now. And some companies also have said, we don't have place in our company, but generously they've said, we can take on a few students and just give them the training, but no guaranteed work thereafter. So yes, some companies are interested in more than just their own employment, you see. But that leads us to a problem. The employers only want to take students who've done all their subjects. And another problem, as he's mentioned, some students who just can't seem to get work. So now, what Jay is identified, you take these students who've done all their subjects, what is lacking? What you see, he runs a training, can't think of the word for it, Tekmation Training Institute. What intervention can he put in place that those students that go through what he's done will now be in a far better position, more employable, more sought after by industry? And it's something that could perhaps grow eventually. I must just, I've covered most of it, but I think one thing I just should mention, the difference between work-integrated learning and experiential learning. Experiential is essentially they go to the company will put them through training, and they'll fill in logbooks for us to evaluate, and when they've done their time, almost without fail, then they finish their diploma. I must just say, under the new qualifications, we don't have time to go into that now, published by, it's HEQC. Yeah, okay. If we have work-integrated learning in the program, no more experiential training, that's what it means. And the best example is the medical schools, where in Durban we have Nelson Mandela Medical School, which is part of University KZN, next door to King Edward Hospital. It's a training hospital. So medical students do lectures, and then they go across, they just walk through a gate in the wall, and they go into the hospital where they practice. That scheme, work-integrated learning, is excellent there. And the nurses at UKZN are on top of the hill, but they just go down to King Edward for the experience. It's not a problem. For us, we in Durban can't place all the students. And some students end up in a mine in Northern Province, I forget the new name for that province, or down in Cape Town. And it becomes an impossible task for us place them and to go and see them all the time and evaluate. So essentially what's happening under the newer diplomas is we will give a diploma after subjects, and then they can register as candidate technicians with the Engineering Council of South Africa, who will then evaluate the experiential professional registration. Have I covered most of it?
Yeah,
so
I
that
think,
gives a bit of context.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. So the challenge arose when these 7 learners came to me, okay, and they've completed the academic component of the study, but because they couldn't get access into industry, they sat at home. So they came to me and told me, this is what happened, and then because I came from industry, I put a program together. I said, listen, let's see if this thing works. I got it approved. So learners came through this program, and then the companies took them much more easily than before the program. Then the next semester, I had 40 learners come through the program. So then, the first program I paid from my pocket. I paid for the premises, I paid for those that were assisting, I paid for the consumables, everything from my pocket. But when it got to 40, we realized, now you got to basically make it a business. So that was 12 years ago. Okay, today the company is a big company. We have 40 people employed. And even though the learners go through the program, we have in a year maybe 200 of the learners that go through the program, we still have files with CVs, that are sitting for these learners to basically, they're still sitting at home. There are a whole lot of these learners sitting at home. So, so what I want to do, basically what I'll do is I've given that topic a little bit more description, and I'll read it out to you so that, remember now for me, this is the way I see myself. I'm like a sponge. Around me is fountains of knowledge and expertise and experience, and I would just want to absorb all that information and the inputs that you're going to give me. So I'm going to give you my topic and the description, and I need you maybe later on, but you need to maybe polish it or tell me, listen, this description is perfect. So it's not going to be a one-way conversation now. You are going to get involved in this session. And then we'll go through a whole lot of other questions that I actually designed so that you can help me. Okay, if it's okay with you. Anyone got any problems?
Okay.
All right, this is the description I put together, right, for my, let me get it. So it's quite a long one. Obviously, we can polish it. All right, I just got here the examination of a learning intervention to bridge the gap between the academic and workplace learning components of the electrical diploma qualification. I tried to make it more specific, but basically, there is a gap existing between the academic component of study and work placement. So we've put a learning intervention in place, but we need to look at this intervention and see whether this intervention bridges that gap. Okay, there's a whole lot of things that we need to look at. So that's, I don't know, maybe.
Okay, so let's take that. So you're saying you're looking at bridging a gap between the education and the workplace components for a specific higher education qualification.
Yes.
Based in the engineering field with a focus on electricity or electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone wants to comment on that? Sophie? Sister, does this sound for you like a PhD topic?
Yes, it does.
Okay, speak to me about it.
I think learning has concentrated quite heavily on just the academic. After that, a learner who has passed, who has graduated, even with A's, is put in a work situation. Do something. Use what you have learned. Quite often they can't. Because in a work environment, it's not X is always 2 or whatever it is. You've got to integrate it with what you've got in the work situation, apply the knowledge, and actually quite often change it all the time, so that whatever academic knowledge you've got, you can use that basis to apply to the work situation. So actually academics should be just providing a springboard to get into any situation.
Okay. So I like the idea. And do you think it's possible that Jay have explored whether this is a reality globally elsewhere?
Globally,
Mm.
you have to ask Jerry.
Jay?
Well,
So what are the Swedes doing with this? And what are the Peruvians doing? And what are the Indians doing? Do you know?
well, let me also say this, okay? This is very early part of my research, okay? But in some countries, they basically have a greater focus on the practical component in the tertiary institution. But even still, okay, they might learn the technical skill or the practical skill. But after going through a whole lot of articles, I realized there is a whole lot of psychological benefits by going through a program like this. Because, for example, when the learners come through our program, okay, they have to start work at 8 o'clock, even though it's training. If they come later than 8, we close the door. So they learn, about punctuality, about attendance, about responsibility. In this program, the technical benefit is one, but the confidence level, I'm saying the confidence level picks up, but I've spoken to Tony, so what I would like to do is do a pre-assessment, a psychometric test before they come to the program, and when they finish the program, do another one.
Okay, so he's already at the solution stage.
Yeah.
He's already at the solution stage. Roy?
So, yeah, I think that we are so good in this country of actually accepting the status quo. So there's a gap. Well,
Yes.
let me be quite honest with you. What are you going to tell me? You're going to say there's the engineering council and all of those things. A PhD, you need to redesign the system.
Yes.
Yes,
So you've got a wicked problem.
yes,
You've got a reality that, in fact, there's a major disjuncture between business and academic institutions. It's amongst the worst in the world in South Africa.
yes,
Because the academic institutions are not, I've been very prominently in some academic institutions, you get too much money from government.
exactly.
So you're making a tacit assumption that that's right. It's not right. So I would like to suggest that in fact you look at the system and there's a fundamental flaw in the system.
Yes,
And that requires a complete redesign of the system. There isn't a gap. The gap is at the moment because you are trying to plug a reality that these students can't graduate and they can't get a job. But in fact, it's much wider than that.
So if I can add to that, Jay, you may be tempted to almost conduct a project. As opposed, you want to define a thesis. You want to look conceptually at a bigger context, at a bigger system. Because you don't just want to solve the problem for the engineering electrical student in South Africa. You want the guy in Shanghai and the guy in Santiago to read your thesis around bridging this assumed gap, as Roy refers to it. And it's the way you think around looking at the total system that people would say, but you know what, this PhD has got something to say to me. But then you'll have to be cautious in what both Sophie has said and what Roy said. I want to add and say, and therefore don't make it a project.
no, you're right.
Because you want to write a thesis. Okay, any other comments? Carl, what do you hear?
I'm also still battling with the business case and the problem that he's trying to address. I think it's very much at the program level. But I think it's a serious society issue, and the consequences of us not thinking through this type of a problem is that we are not able to ensure sustainability of the country. So he's responding to a challenge that confronted him directly and responding to the pressure that it gave him. But it's a problem that is actually facing the society, and we're looking for new ways, even challenging the policies, because there are policies that are in place at the moment trying to address it, and are those policies actually helping?
And I think, Storm, into what Mr. Basiev said, the thesis, if you prepare it as a thesis, also has the potential to make a contribution for, amongst others, to the notion of work integrated learning. Because to us, in all honesty, it's a foreign concept. for the education institutions. So it's also how are you going to do an introspection of what are the underpinning notions of work-based challenges or work-based learning, work-integrated learning.
Can I
Yes.
answer? I think the focus that was taken in the initiative was a technical competence. Okay. Now, competence is made up of head, heart, and hand. So you've got the technical that we get trained in, but then you've got the behavioural, you've got the value-based, etc. Now, if you take competence as a thread from when you're a child through to entering the workforce and your career, at different stages we experience some problems in the community. Okay. If we take South Africa as an example, maths and science, we know are an issue, and that's starting right at the beginning of the chain. And we need jerking to try to address the gap at a point in time. The systemic issues have to be examined more thoroughly to carry that through. So that's the one. Then we also work on the assumption that once you've done all this hard slog and you've got your qualification, that you enter into this holy grail of the corporate environment and everything's hunky-dory. And the reality is, on that side of the equation as well, the understanding of competency and assessment to monitor progression is also very fragmented. So we need to find that thread that's building it. I think it's competence a multifaceted view, but from the beginning all the way through, because the knee-jerk stuff's not going to sort it out. You make a few people happy for a short time.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, let Jay give us a little bit of a response. What do you hear from the floor?
I've taken electrical, the discipline, electrical discipline as one discipline, but obviously in our, I'm helping mechanical learners, I'm helping learners from other engineering fields as well. So it's not a specific problem to one specific field. Engineering generally has this problem, but I've been reading, after Dr. Arti given me some feedback, and I've done a whole lot of reading. There's been research done where they took a learner that has done work-integrated learning, and they watched him right through the career, and they took another one that didn't do work-integrated learning, and they watched him right through the career, and they looked at not one learner, okay, they took samples, okay, and they look at how this one progresses and how the one without will progresses, and they found big variations. There's like, in different aspects of work-integrated learning, there's a whole lot of different research taking place. But there was mentioned, like I said, one of the articles written from somebody in Ghana, where they have the same problem, but it was a paper, where the learners are problems they've done, went through all the study, but they come to a black. So I feel and I firmly believe there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of new knowledge to be, that will be created through this type of research.
Mr. Bassi?
Yeah, sorry. I was going to talk out of turn. I think you should mention your experiences of how your skill so far has expanded to Mozambique and now nearer to Howick.
Howick, yeah.
I do think it's something that if he's good at it, will eventually spread countrywide.
Yeah.
Anyway, let him talk.
So, like I said, the work-integrated learning runs through all our other programs as well, like apprenticeships, even some university programs and whatever, where they need that particular component. We were called to Mozambique to do training for a whole lot of youngsters in the engineering field. These guys were not employable, so we ran an apprenticeship program for them, and now we're busy with another campus in Howick area, because there is great need not only for the training of the skills, but I think ultimately we're looking at employability, addressing unemployment, and addressing things like poverty. I know from my experience that that particular gap that we addressed, if I call it a gap, has resulted in a lot of them getting employment. Okay, they've done the qualification, come to a blank end, they've got employment, and obviously their lives have changed. So
I think what I then hear, you're almost saying to us, you are taking a position that work integrated learning combined with the education piece will bring the solution.
yes.
But are you prepared as a PhD candidate to consider that that may not be true?
No, that's true. That's basically, that's why I said I'm examining this particular intervention.
Okay.
It might work, it might not work. So there are further questions that maybe I can just throw to the floor. We need to prove that I'm saying the thinking now that it is helping the learners.
So you actually want to prove the business case that work integrated learning is important,
Yes.
whatever the outcome may be?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments on that,
Stay
sir?
at the back then.
Yes.
Just in terms of what Paul is saying, I think it's just worthwhile to start looking in terms of processes, because anywhere else in the world as well, we have a major problem with education at this stage. Give an example, there's research showing that MIT students in their final undergraduate year, some of the material they studied in the first year has actually become redundant. That's how quickly the world is changing. So somewhere we need to put on a thinking cap and really explore how do we come up with something, some sort of education that will give us the opportunity to carry on and continue with lifelong learning, because that's basically,
Yes.
we have to, and the academics normally disagree with me, it's a question of learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning, But if you have a sound foundation from where you depart, in terms of your ability to process information, see connections, and then integrate those and create new platforms. So it's very holistic, but I hope you can get a bit passionate.
So I'm almost hearing you say, how do we include aspects related to, for example, thinking skills, decision making, problem solving?
I have no doubt in my mind. Innovation, those are the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we were able to package something very, very closely. And said, this is the way we do things. And we could go and apply those skills, and it would be relative for 20 or 30 years. But in the new age that we live in right now, and the challenges that we will face in the future will just demand a total different ability from people.
So Jay, what I almost hear is saying you may solve the work integrated learning problem, but then you've got a next problem, the education problem. So you must almost be constantly aware that you must play on both sides.
Okay.
Understand the educational dynamics as well as the work integrated learning. I think that's very valuable.
Okay.
There's one behind.
Bafana?
Sorry, thank you. My input in this particular, because it's something that I am looking at and I have experienced it. In my experience, Professor Marcus, I played a role in ESCOM years back, and I thought it's a challenge specific for ESCOM. But I've since discovered that it's quite wider than ESCOM. It is actually systemic. It's the entire system. And I'm currently with the city of Joburg. I'm experiencing the same problem. In the sense that it is not only the academic side, but it's also the captains of industry that have got, or they almost carry certain stereotypes of how they perceive this functionary that needs to fulfill a particular role. And they tend to resist, as it were, any other thing that comes into the workplace in a different format other than mainstream education. So I come with this notion of work, integrated learning, you find that the decision-making capability or the powers that you can sort of discharge are not sufficient to overcome this particular resistance that is displayed by people that have got the powers to decide for the organization. I'll give you an example. When I started with the city of Joburg probably 4 years ago, I came to Da Vinci looking for a program to sort of train supervisors. Because the kind of supervisors we need in this particular division area, it is, yes, it's supervision, but they need a particular type of skills to fit in that particular environment. Now I knew that Da Vinci can offer that particular, having had an experience going through the program. But it was resisted flat out. This is now 4 years later, and nothing has happened. You feel in that environment. I'm still there, and basically contributed to why I need to come now through a doctoral program, and also help wage the battle, wage, as it were, the war, because you are in a battlefield, of people that come from the mainstream education, and it can only work if it comes through the size, shape, and everything of what they are used to. And it may take 10 years, and I'm really buying into the notion that we need to put up material that will work into the understanding of people, work into the understanding of people, to see the role of integration, work integration in learning, so that you create a functionality that will work and produce the goods.
And a meaningful outcome. Yeah. So I think it's confirming the interrelations between the education and the work integration.
My comment is actually in line with what he has been what he has just commented. It is a national issue which we need to take it from what is the literature review informing us, what is the current thinking,
Yes.
because that is where it starts from. Is the universities and technicals producing what is actually required in the world?
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I say
Karen?
something about this? There was another.
Sorry, ma'am.
I think the first thing that I hear is you're not thinking big enough in terms of the whole system.
Okay.
And if you're at PhD level, I think we want
Yeah.
to see that you think about the system. But what I wanted to ask about it is what is new? Because the QCTO, obviously, government agrees with me that work integrated learning is a beautiful thing. That's why we have learnerships.
Yes.
That's why we have a Quality Council for Trades and Occupations that develops qualifications with those three components, of which one is a workplace component. What is new?
Okay, very good. Because you see,
And what is wrong with what they are doing?
no.
Can I ask you that?
We also do learnerships at our institution, but if you look at the SSTs, from the SSPs, from the CETAs, you'll find that one of the biggest problems is the work integrated learning issue. They prepared to fund a lot of money to companies. They prepared to, sponsor and whatever to try and get that component fixed up. But it's happening now for many years. But we still got the problem. Like I said, I've got CVs from youngsters like this in the maybe after the study, if we find the reasons why we're having the problem, my program may not be necessary to continue with. You know what I'm saying?
We may alter it.
Yes, or we may change it.
But maybe I sort of missed this bit because that's not the question that I heard. The question that I heard said something about we're going to establish a work integration work integrated
No, no.
learning is a great thing.
No, I said we're going to examine. You see, at the moment, what I am doing is basically not one of the legislated ways to do it. You know, the way the program should run is from the tertiary institution, they should go directly to a company. And it is not happening. So they're coming through my program. I see there is some, some benefit. However, we need to prove it. And maybe if we do find the problems within industry, with the institution, or with the learner, if that problems are fixed, maybe then the program may be altered, or we can do away with it.
So I'll comment on that, Karen. If Jay decides for a thesis, he wants to interrogate the notion of work integrated learning, and he wants to almost comparatively look at all the models around the world of how people have worked with this, and he wants to come up with a voice and say, from his research, it seems these are the benefits and these are the weaknesses and these are the gaps, and therefore he proposes work integrated learning should actually be as follows.
This particular model. Because
This particular model.
Exactly.
Because we tend to base our work integrated sort of learning on the German model, which I think is not a very clever idea,
Yeah.
because we're not German.
Yeah.
It's simply, they look at the German and say, oh, that's beautiful, we want to do it here. No, this is South African. So I think that's probably, now we're getting to something that sounds
Yes.
like a question.
So that's one direction you could go, Jay. Mr. Busse, it seems that he could go work integrated learning as a concept to be, taken apart, looking in different socioeconomic realities, because you're operating in a developing economy.
Yes.
Whereas is it the Hochschule, or what do they call it? Fachhochschule. That is a very developed concept. So how do we work with that? That can work. The alternative, as you heard, if you want to play with the idea, how can I juggle the notion of the education side with the work integrated learning, and what is the disconnect
Yes,
potentially? So there are two options already. There was another comment, sir.
Yeah.
I want
Sorry,
to add to that.
can he just?
Yeah.
He's work.
Okay. How's it? What I'm sort of getting here now, I think maybe something for you to look at as well is maybe sustainability
Okay.
of your program. Look at that.
Okay.
And also how your program can drive sustainability as well.
Okay.
So it's two aspects that you can look at as well if you're looking at ideas and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you just give him more sustainability? Just give it a little bit more
But how
definition.
sustainable is this program? I mean, is it going to die off in 2 years, a year? What you're proposing should be a long term.
No, I agree. You see, right now, I agree. Right now, I mean, that program is running for 12 years, and one of the things I was looking at is, looking at the enrollment history of the program in our institution, because numbers have constantly increased, and we still got a big gap. I mean, I said we got learners come and leave the CVs, because all these learners are sitting. We had learners sitting at home for 5 years, so there is a problem. 5 years they're sitting at home. They got all the subjects, but no company want to take them.
But remember, then we're back at Roy's comment.
Yeah. No,
Then you must be careful in saying, are you assuming it's because they don't have work integrated
No.
learning? Because you could assume that, but that's a different problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
I
sir?
think Jay needs to help the forum here and really put the work integrated learning in context and define it, because we're talking as if work integrated learning has happened in South Africa. It has not. I think it's not learnership, it's not internship, it's not apprenticeship. It's a very new concept altogether that, in fact, for the first time, only this year we have a directorate in the Department of Higher Education and Training that is going to look at work integrated learning. It hasn't happened. Work integrated learning says that when you design the curriculum of a particular qualification, there's a component that addresses learning at workplace.
Exactly.
That is not a choice. It's a requirement that for you to get the qualification, you must have completed work integrated learning component of a qualification. Otherwise, you don't get it.
Right.
So, if I'm a university and I'm running a program and I don't have opportunity to expose my learners to a work environment, it's not an excuse to say there's no workplace. You can be innovative and creative in your university, create a factory in the university, because now the law requires you that you shall not qualify anybody unless they have experienced component of work integrated learning. So it has not happened in South Africa. Yes, in medical profession, they've been doing it, in hospitality, they've been doing it, but it is really the nature of the sector that forces people to do it, because I will not eat the food from somebody who come out of hotel school, has never tested, has never cooked anything. I will not eat it. So by nature of that, it has been happening. The Minister of Higher Education is saying that from 2015 onwards, you have to redesign all your qualifications, and there has to be a component of work integrated learning, so that when the qualified students come out, no company can come for excuses and say there's no talent. The point that was raised, that means even when you design that, it must be informed by the demand out there. So now, here is the challenge. If you say work integrated learning is going to be a solution to this problem, please, here's an opportunity to actually contribute into a debate and come with something unique as has never happened. Fachhochschule example in Germany it's not just one only model that you can compare with. There's a lot of these models. World Association of Cooperative Education, WACE, has got the best Taiwan. I think is one of the best countries that's doing that. So let's think a little broader, bring all various models and demystify and avoid this confusion that's existing. That when we talk about this, people think about all these things that we know. That is not work integrated learning.
I think that's...
No, it's important, Sharon.
You wanted to comment, Mr. Kosi?
Just worrying the drift a little, because I think Jay, you must make it clearer. You've identified a problem. People who just cannot get employed. So, their problem is they've passed a lot of subjects, but what are they worth? And, what we're saying is we find out what industry wants, and we find out what the discipline wants. Put something in the gap, which may be answered with work integrated learning, but just worrying we're getting stuck with work integrated learning.
But I think I want to comment on that, and maybe that's more typical at Da Vinci. So you may solve that problem, but you're not solving the real problem.
I agree. I totally agree. You've expanded our thinking greatly from what I've learned so far.
So I think we want to open it and say there's an opportunity, as Sam indeed says. We're foreign to this work integrated learning. And we can almost fall prey to an existing definition just to find out 10 years later, well, this design is actually ill applied. So I think whilst he's spending the energy on it, we would like to say, open the scope of this.
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact,
don't be worried in getting a solution, but rather make a contribution.
Exactly. No, I appreciate that. Thanks. In fact, I did attend the WACE conference.
Yes.
You know, they had it in South Africa. And there was tons of papers being presented on work integrated learning. Okay, but I've spoken to all of them, and I told them this specifically is one of the areas that I'm looking at, and none of them have reset that area yet.
Okay. Great. So I want to just to wrap up, because you won't believe we're almost an hour busy. If I get a sense, consider broadening your scope. You can go different routes. The one is to look at the relationship between education and integrated learning. I hear a strong voice to redefine and actually scope a real context-specific understanding of work integrated learning. I hear the notions of competence being quite important. That's been noted. I hear your awareness around the social system, that we want you to elevate yourself from a project to a bigger awareness, so that the guy somewhere in Peru and somewhere in India would say, I need to read this stuff, because he will be able to, or she, make it relevant to their context from where you come from. I think that's what I want to say, and then thereby also making a valuable contribution, not just to work integrated learning, but to the notion of lifelong learning.
Exactly.
Any final comment from your side?
No, I just want to thank everybody for the contribution. You've helped me now, so there's a lot of work for us to do. But what I'd like is maybe, to get the contact details of everybody, and I'll give you my details. So, whatever information you have, and in whatever way you can contribute, you can maybe send the information to me. I'll appreciate it.
And I please link him to your understanding, Sam. I think it's an important comment you also from there. Roy, even your concepts around design thinking, so please make that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Any last comment, Mr. Bassi, from your side?
As I mentioned, he's quite right. Work integrated learning, you want to integrate the learning with the work. And it's a very difficult challenge in our particular field, because the students will be are very widely spaced.
Well, and therefore, I almost want to say maybe the idea of work integrated learning is ill-informed. But let the research show it.
Yeah.
You know, what alternatives are there? And are there alternatives? So I really almost want you to deconstruct this.
Okay.
And you see where they do just simple experiential training, well, there's no real quality measurement or control, there's no real assessment other than a logbook, which you don't know whether they've actually really done the work unless you can visit. Then you can only visit like once in 6 months, maybe. So, yeah, it's...
So I'll be looking forward to something that's been created that's novel,
Exactly.
and new, and fresh.
Okay, I'm sure we can get something like that.
Then I just know, but
Right.
we should also look at the Da Vinci internship program.
Yeah.
Where we just
Oh,
heard
yeah.
today
Okay.
that 60% of the people that are on the internship program have been employed. So
Yeah.
they're doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're taking these people who've been unemployed or
Yes.
unemployable
Yes.
for 2 to 3 years
Yes.
with respectable qualifications. And today we hear this group that's leaving today, 60% of them will be employed. So something's been done right.
Exactly. yeah.
Have you,
Thank you so
have
much.
you published anything on that?
No,
Not yet.
We will publish.
we will.
Okay, thank you very much,
He wants
everybody.
a copy.
But you must just, but that's important, so that you must just link to our internship
I'll do
office
that.
on that. All right.
Simon, eh?
No, you can actually link with Rachel, just to
Okay.
make the Rachel Corby at the
Thanks.
interesting. Thank you very much, Jay.
All right.
I really appreciate that, and good luck with your journey.
Thank you very much.
Okay.